Hello guys and girls, my name is Jordy and welcome to this Adobe Premiere Pro CS6 course for TUTS Plus. This video is rather going to be boring, but I recommend you to completely watch this before you open up Premiere Pro. I'm going to explain several technical terms about video. You have to know all of this when you dive into professional video editing. There are beautiful applications out there where you don't need to understand all of this. Some of those applications even work on an iPad. But we guys are professionals. When we encounter technical settings or problems, we know what to do. So here is a video file. A video file contains a video track and an audio track. The video track contains images, let's say 25 images per second. This is an option you can choose, but choose wisely. 4 frames per second will look like a PowerPoint presentation rather than a smooth video. All of these images have a certain size, a resolution which is defined by a width and a height in pixels. We don't use inches or centimeters here, we talk about pixels. You can choose whatever resolution you want, but there are standards, and I suggest you use these standards. The higher the resolution, the sharper your video will be. We've got standard definition, or SD, and high definition, or HD. For standard definition, we've got 2 different resolutions. 768 by 576, which we name PAL, and it's being used in Europe, or 640 by 480, which we name NTSC, and is being used in America. But we live in the future, and therefore we'll use HD resolutions for a good looking quality image. 1280 by 720, also named 720p, which is a good resolution for an internet video. 1920 by 1080 or 1080p. This is the full HD resolution and gives you a beautiful sharp video. And then we've got 3840 by 2160 or 2K, and 4096 by 3072 or 4K, and 7690 by 4320 or 8K, but these are just overkill, guys, and therefore used in the cinema or special effects. We won't deal with them. Next are the pixels. A pixel is a dot. Many dots together creates a resolution. A dot can be 1 by 1. This is a square dot. But this pixel can also be 1.33 by 1. This makes the pixel a rectangle. So in this case, if we combine 1440 horizontal pixels, it will look like 1920 pixels. This trick is being used by many formats, such as a widescreen on your old SD television. It wasn't possible to create more pixels, so they just stretched the pixels to give the impression of a widescreen resolution. What I've just explained is the most important basic you need to know. You will encounter this all the time. The next step is the scan of the video frame. When you play a video file, you need a video player. This can be a DVD player, Windows Media Player, or QuickTime. And you will have to tell them whether to read the video file in progressive or interlaced. Now, what's the difference? Progressive is simple. Each frame is one full image. Your video file contains, for example, 25 full images. Now, interlaced is a different story. Your video contains now 50 images, but not full images, half images. All these images together creates 25 full images per second. Each half image is built out of lines. The image that comes next contains the lines that the first image didn't have, and so on. This kinda also dates back from old television, but it's still being used in high definition because many people think it gives a much smoother motion, but I just think it's a pain in the ass. Just imagine what there could go wrong when you are painting something away, frame by frame. And if you export your video wrong with these settings, you see stripes all over the place. The next step is the bitrate. An image has a certain size on your hard drive. Let's say 500 kilobytes. That makes 25 images, 12,500 kilobytes together. So each second of your video is 12,500 kilobytes. This is called the bitrate. The higher the bitrate gets, the bigger the file will be, but also the quality will be better. Okay, so you know what a resolution is, and we've set our bitrate pretty high. One problem now, the file is just too big. We ended up with a 2 GB file, and we don't want to lose too much quality. So here comes the codec, the badass that will compress your video file. Codec stands for code and decode. You code your video when you export it, and then you decode your video when you play it. A codec works with ones and zeros of a video file. It performs some mathematic algorithms on it to reduce the file size without too much quality loss. There are many codecs out there, and also many bad codecs. In chapter 3 of this course, I will show you which codecs are good to use. Codecs can be grouped into native and intermediate codecs. You start with recording in a particular codec. This is the highest you can get because it comes straight out of the camera. Unless you have a high-end cinema camera, your camera will record in a particular codec to reduce the size of your video file. This codec can be native or not native. When it's not native, you need to create an intermediate codec. So what is this all about? Your editing software contains many codecs. If your video file from your camera is supported by your software, then you have a native video file. If it's not supported by Premiere or any other editing software, you will first need to convert your video file into a codec that your editing software can read and work with. In other words, you are using an intermediate codec. How can you tell your codec is supported or not? Well, you can look for specifications of your camera and the editing software. But you can also just import your video into Premiere Pro, and look what happens. If you can't even import it, you know enough. If you can import it, but you're having trouble playing it back inside the editing software, then you also better create an intermediate file. Now you've got the basic understanding of what a video file actually is. This knowledge will help you a lot during editing. I will cover more of this in detail in chapter 3, where we'll export our video. Alright, thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you didn't fall asleep. In the next video I'll be opening Premiere Pro, so it will be more interesting.